Oh, dear Lord, Sam, you're back! Yes, of course I am. I always come back now. Shut up so I can get started. Welcome to the Attic Dungeon. My name is Sam. And what do you think? Fighters are the most boring class or the most versatile class? I'm here to help you with everything. The end of the year festivities and the other thing known as life kept me away from my recording studio for just a bit longer than I'd like. But no worries, I'm back, and once again, lovely that you're watching. Today we'll be continuing our stroll down the 2024 Player's Handbook, specifically the classes, more specifically the fighter. Yes, over the course of the years, I've played a fighter in a campaign. Look at that, I played a class, and I actually really learned to appreciate the fighter, so I was very interested to see what would change for the fighter. And actually, I don't think I'm disappointed. I like it because he got more utility, a bit more tweaking here and there, some of those useless abilities from the OG PHB that got changed into something useful, as with most classes. Obviously, they're better off overall, but I don't think they're broken, and that's good. So, as always, I highlight the differences. I'm not here to give you the full rundown of the fighter class. Already did that for the original PHB. I'm just going to go over the changes. There's a few, not too many, and they're useful, so let's do this. Obviously, at level 1, just like every other purely martial class or mainly martial class, you get weapon masteries. If you forgot, because it's been a while, weapon mastery is an ability that unlocks a passive ability of a weapon that you're proficient with and that you have weapon mastery for. The abilities vary. There's an entire list in the book. Go look. But as a fighter, you start with 3 weapon masteries, but by the end of the game, if you go all the way to level 20, you'll have 6 weapon masteries, making the fighter once again the master of versatile weapon usage. Even the fact that you just have 3 to start with, 3 weapon masters to start with, means you can have like your main weapon, a ranged weapon, and some off backup weapon mastered, already ready to go. So that gives you some range. And even so, every time you take a long rest, you can change out 1 weapon mastery. So no matter what piece of loot the dungeon master tosses at you, if you're proficient with it, you can master it. And guess what? You're proficient with everything. What's it called? Second Wind. Whew, I almost forgot the name. Second Wind, our trusty old fighter heal. Used to be 1 charge resets on short rest. Now there's 2 charges of the damn thing. Huzzah, more healing. 1 still resets on short rest. They all reset on long rest. All might sound weird if there's only 2. You need to know that here as well, you will gain more charges over the course of the levels. You'll start with 2 charges of Second Wind and it'll go all the way up to 4. 4 is not an impressive number, but considering we come from 1 and only 1 that resets on short rest, now you have 4 times the self-healing if you're level 20. That actually means that Second Wind always kind of suffered from scaling because it's a D10 plus their fighter level, and once you have like, I don't know, 200 hit points, fighters don't hit that, but they have a lot of hit points. It kind of lessens, but if you can repeat the thing a few times, it becomes more useful, obviously. Important to know is that Second Wind is also kind of your fighter resource. You've noticed in my past few PHB 2024 guides that a lot of classes have gained some type of class resources, some kind of limited key points pool, so to say, that fuels some of their abilities. Second Wind is going to be that limited fighter pool. So that's why it has charges. If you're not using it as the resource to fuel some of your abilities, you'll have more self-healing. All in all, it's a good win. Level 2, you get Tactical Mind, an entirely new ability. You still get Action Surge, don't worry, but also Tactical Mind, where you can expend the use of Second Wind, there you go, to roll a d10 and add it to an ability check. So here's already your Second Wind being used to boost ability checks, and that's a broad range. You all know it's not saving throws, but ability checks does include initiative, does include skill rolls, so that's all good. And even better, if it fails, if the D10 doesn't allow you to surpass whatever DC you need to surpass, you don't spend the charge of Second Wind. And That kind of abilities only invites themselves to be spammed. Oh, look, I'm 8 short, but it's important. Hell, I'll throw a second wind die. If it doesn't work, I'll get it back. If it works, huzzah, make the important skill throw. So this is a good ability, really. It's free buffs for your skills, there's really nothing wrong with it. Level 5, along with extra attack, you also get Tactical Shift. When you activate Second Wind, you can move half your speed without attack of opportunity. So again, that Second Wind really becomes a central mechanic here, allowing you to shift around the battlefield while healing yourself. And if you're down on hit points, there's nothing better than being able to reposition a bit as you heal. And it's even better when you can reposition without being punched in the face for more than you healed. So that's actually a nice add-on. Is it game-changing? No. Is it cool to have? Yes, because you want to be mobile as a fighter. It's simple. Tactical Master at level 9. When you also knew when you attack with an ability, no, with a weapon that you have mastered, so Weapon Mastery at level 1, you can always change out the mastery for push, sap, and slow. Push, you push something obviously slow, you gimp them for 10 feet of movement speed, and I think sap was giving them disadvantage on their next attack roll or something like that. It had to do with disadvantage or advantage. So it's always nice because this allows you to use another weapon that doesn't have one of these 3 abilities, obviously, and still have a total of 4 mastery abilities at your disposal. The one of the weapon that you're using and the 3 that you get from this ability. Again, that makes you versatile. Fighters already were versatile, but now they're actually versatile in weapon usage and a bit of movement and a bit of healing and ability checks, and I'm all here for it. Level 13, Studied Attacks. Now this one, personally, I think is strong because it's resourceless. It always activates when it needs to activate. When you miss with an attack, your next attack that happens before the end of your next turn, so it takes a while, has advantage. So you're a fighter, you're past level 11 because you're level 13, you have 3 attacks. First one misses, second one gets advantage and will probably hit. If the third one misses, your first attack of your next turn gets advantage. So you're always going to kind of bob and weave failure with advantage. Obviously, if you hit all the time, this ability will never trigger and it'll be a piece of junk. That's not the case. This is going to allow you to fish for crits after a failure. This is going to allow you to be sure to hit that high armor class enemy more often, because that was a problem for quite a few fighters. High armor class enemies, if you didn't have Eldritch Knight with spellcasting or whatever, you could have an issue with hitting them. And often high armor class enemies are always so strong enemies, so grappling, shoving, whatever wasn't really an option. So this is a good way to make your fighter relevant against hard to hit enemies. I love the ability, really do. And just like for every other class, level 19 has obviously gained the epic boon. There you go, that's it for the fighter general feature stuff. I'm quickly going to just scroll down my cheat sheet for a moment and move on to the Battle Master. Yes, so there's I think 3 subclasses that we gain once again. It's the Battle Master, four. Battle Master Champion, Eldritch Knight, and Psionic, what's it called? The Psy Knight, Psy Stabby, Psy Fighter, I don't care. Psionic? You know the one I'm talking about. The Battle Master has gained a few nice improvements. I'm not going to go over all the maneuvers. If I'm not mistaken, the new book has less maneuvers than you had at the end of original 5e. Some have been buffed quite a bit though. I'm going to pick out 2 or 3 that I know that have changed for the better. But we'll start with Student of War. Student of War was a Battlemaster ability that granted you proficiency with any tool, simple enough. Now it also grants you proficiency with any skill, any fighter skill that you didn't pick at level 1. Basically you get an extra fighter proficiency. That's cool, it combines well with a thing that allows you to roll second wind for ability checks, I guess. Free skill profs are always good. Then I had a quick run through the maneuvers. The basic idea is still the same. You still get 4 superiority dice that start at D8, will go up to 10, D10 and D12 over the course of the game. You still will end up with 5 or 6 of them in total. They reset on short rest. It's all the same stuff. Two things that changed in maneuvers that I like. There's probably more, but it's kind of like a spell list. I couldn't be bothered with reading everything in detail right now. But I had a look at Commander Strike because there's an important change there. Old Commander Strike. So Commander Strike is when you order somebody else to attack. Basically, you forgo part of your turn to allow another ally to use their reaction to smack something. It always said you had to do a weapon attack, Commander Strike, but now it also very specifically says that you can use an unarmed strike. And that matters for two classes. Obviously, the monk, if you're using that really no weapon monk, which is perfectly feasible thanks to the monk die, you know, your unarmed damage scales with your level. So if you want to keep your hands open for grappling shenanigans, for catching stuff and what have you, it's very feasible. Hell, who cares if your monk isn't wearing a weapon? But now Commander Strike also allows your monk to actually sock him on command from the fighter, and that's a good buff. But I think one of my favorite buffs is actually Rally. I've always loved Rally. Rally used to give temporary hit points equal to the superiority die plus your charisma modifier. That meant you had to build some sort of charisma fighter, which worked because you could also pick up, there was a feat that allowed you to hand out temporary hit points on short rest as well. Anyway, lots of fun with temporary hit points and charisma modifiers. But now Rally is based on your superiority die plus half your fighter level. And if you can count somewhat, you know that your half fighter level will be able to go twice as high as your charisma modifier. No fighter would ever probably have 20 charisma to begin with, so no +5 on the Rally. But your level 10 fighter is going to have +5 on the Rally. Your level 14 fighter is going to have +7 plus a superiority die on the Rally. Is that an immense scaling out of proportions? No. Is this fun and good and all that? Yes, I'm all there for stuff that allows this class to use its abilities without suddenly having to spec into charisma, because it's a bit weird if there's only one maneuver that forces you to do it. Obviously, if you have some fighter, paladin, multi-class, fighter, hexlock, whatever, then it'll work. But now all fighters can use Rally. Huzzah! Know your enemy. Used to be this thing where you needed to watch someone for a minute and then you could kind of guess how good they were at fighting, if they were fighter levels, so like vague character sheety information in regards to yourself. It took a minute, so you needed, I mean, you couldn't use it in combat. The new know your enemy is a bonus action, and you still look at an enemy within 30 feet and you learn whether they have immunities, resistances, vulnerabilities, and that's cool. Having a subclass feature that allows you to learn about weaknesses and resistances is really cool. I know there's a monk that used to have it as well. So this is good ability. You can only use this once per long rest, except if you spend a superiority die because you're a battle master. So that's cool. That's good. And it doesn't require an action to reload it with a superiority die. So you can use this more often. There's then the capstone for Battle Master was Relentless, I think. Yeah, no, the capstone was that your dice go up to 12, your superiority dice. But the like penultimate capstone was Relentless, and it used to say if you roll initiative and you have no superiority die, you gain one, which was like, eh. It's a lot better now. This became crazy good in my opinion. Each turn, when you want to use a superiority die, once per turn you can just swap it out for a free d8. So you want to use Rally, instead of rolling your d10, you can just say, no, I'm going to roll a d8 and I don't need to spend the superiority die. So by reverting to base dice value, you don't have to spend one. And that's once per turn. So that is a lot of free superiority dice as opposed to the old ability. This is a really great buff for the Battle Master. And as I said, the capstone is still the same. It's still your stones become d12s. Then we go to the champion. The champion has a similar change, let's say, to Commander Strike. It still has improved critical. Champion still serves the same role. I know people often complain that the champion is too boring to play, but the champion is partially there to give new players an easy subclass to play, just like they made halflings and dwarves easy races to play, which I lament, obviously. Which I lament, obviously, but it's a thing. Champion still serves that role as well. Nonetheless, Now they can also have larger crits on unarmed attacks. So your monk, fighter, crit fisher, crossbreed is a thing now because your monk will crit more often. Remarkable athlete. Moved down from level 7. It used to be this really niche thing that buffed your non-proficient athletics and dexterity skills. Ability checks rather, so that also included your initiative, but it was a weird and useless skill for a level 7 ability. Now at level 3, it gives you advantage on initiative and athletics checks. That's solid. Having advantage on initiative is good, allowing to position yourself early on the field, allowing to whack that caster early on. Might just kill them before they do something. In addition, if you score a critical hit, which will happen 10% of the time right now because you're a champion, you can move half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. I like this. Now you don't just get to move for free when you're using your second wind, also when you crit something, which will happen relatively often. The champion is the subclass going to benefit most from that fighter capstone-y thing where you get advantage if you miss, because he'll be fishing for bigger crits, for crits more often, allowing more free movement. So hey, that's all good. Your additional fighting style dropped down to level 10 because obviously Remarkable Athlete dropped down to 3. The fighting style dropped down to 7. So since all the abilities are moving downwards, that means your level 10 is a completely new ability. It's called Heroic Warrior, and I love it. It basically says that when you start your turn without Heroic Inspiration, which is the general inspiration, it used to be called just Inspiration, I think they call it Heroic Inspiration now to further differentiate it from Bardic Inspiration. So it's still the same thing that allows you to re-roll any d20 roll that you do. But if you start your turn without Heroic Inspiration while in combat, you can just give it to yourself. Inspiration used to be a perk from the Dungeon Master. It was a gift the Almighty Ones gave you when you performed some proper role-playing or made a fun witty remark or a pun. That's what I do sometimes, whoops. But here's the champion, the most basic ass class of the entire game, just going, I'm level 10, I don't have inspiration, I got inspiration, which is amazing. This can be used to further improve your chances to hit, but I think more importantly, saving throws are, I know you get Indomitable as a fighter, you can just say bugger off, I'll take it with Indomitable, but this is a very versatile ability, a skill roll, because the inspiration doesn't disappear after combat, so you'll always end with inspiration probably. A skill roll, an ability check, otherwise, yes, initiative, I'm talking to you, attack roll, saving throws, anything, you can just re-roll it. What is this, a divination wizard? Goddamn, I love it. And then there's Survivor, which is still pretty much the same, so but it has an extra ability. Survivor used to be some form of regenerate. If you're below half your HP, you regen hit points, but now it also gives you advantage on death saves, and you can crit on death saves on an 18, 19, or 20 instead of just a 20. So that's the champion. All in all, I think the champion became a lot more interesting. Still easy to play. Most of the abilities are passive and are just numbers that become bigger. But you have multiple fighting styles, which is good because you're weapon mastering a lot of weapons as well, and you'll be able to pick a fighting style for more of your weapons. You still have the big crits because the crits still go all the way up to 18 as well when you're like max level champion. You get advantage on initiative, you get free inspiration, you have a tough time dying. This is good. I actually really like the new champion. I think it's the perfect base fighter subclass. Then we go on to the Eldritch Knight, which I could almost skip, I think. The major change for the Eldritch Knight is that Weapon Bond got renamed to War Bond. Yes, I kid you not. I read the wording. I think nothing's different. Like, it's worded a bit differently, but it still does the same thing where you bind yourself to a weapon. You can, like, summon it and what have you. War Magic has an important distinction. It used to be if you cast a cantrip, you can make an attack. Now it says when you attack, you can replace one of your attacks with a cantrip, which means that as you grow, obviously you gain up to 4 attacks as a fighter, and you don't go like a cantrip 1 attack. Now you can go, oh, I have 3 attacks, I'll swap one out for a cantrip, which scale with total level. Don't forget, that's why this is good. And then still have 2 attacks to whack. So that's a full power booming blade and then still full power fighter attacks following it. Improved war magic then allows you to, which is the capstone I think for Eldritch Knight, now allows you to replace 2 attacks with a level 1 or 2 spell that has an action length to cast. I think that's good. I mean, it's still at max fighter level, you still have 4 attacks, so that's 2 attacks and casting a low level spell. I haven't read the spells enough to know which spells would be worthy of replacing 2 fighter attacks, because this specifically says level 1 or 2 spells, so no cantrips, no double blue, no booming blade to fill in here. I'm sure there's going to be spells that are very much worth using, might be situational, might be some good utility, you know? You smack an enemy twice and then can still cast a good utility spell, which is what you mainly focus on. And as an Eldritch Knight, your intelligence will never be 20, so don't pick up Fireball, which is also a level 3 spell, obviously, but you get the idea, right? But it's harder for me to find the right spell just right off the bat for this ability. And then the Psy Warrior, that's the name, a name I almost forgot, is even more the same than the Eldritch Knight. At least the Eldritch Knight had minor changes, which are good. The Psy Warrior, I read through the entire damn thing. I couldn't find a single change. Of course, the Psy Warrior is a more recent class than all of the other ones. These other classes are basically the original PHB fighter classes, so that makes sense that they've upgraded them quite a bit. The Psy Warrior comes from Tasha, so was already quite late in the original 5e series. They reworded some stuff. They made a nice little table that shows how big your psionic dice is and how many you have, but it's the same calculations that were being used in the original class. It's still a good, fun subclass that can propulse themselves forward, attack harder, protect people, cast telekinesis. It's a good subclass. And that is everything I have to say about the new fighter class for the PHB 2024. We're getting there. We're already at the F. My alphabet has run away, so I can't remember which class comes next, and I really should know. But anyway, if all goes well, I will once more see you again in 2 weeks in the Attic Dungeon.